Manchester City's charges seem to be coming up on the horizon in the next few months, and they have reacted angrily by suing the Premier League, saying that the charges against them and the new rule sets that have been put in place are discriminating against them. Villa are also now suing. I think, ironically, these new rules were brought in to stop Newcastle, and it's in turn just pissed all of the other superpowers out off potentially. What's the current thoughts on the table about Man City taking powers in their hands and going after the Premier League?
Yeah, the wording of it is quite funny. They're saying that they feel they've been discriminated against, and they feel that it's being done to preserve the elite. So this is a team that have won 5 of the last 6 Premier League titles who believe that the elite are not letting them in.
Aren't they the elite?
Exactly. Mate, it's like that Mitchell and Webb sketch where there's 2 Nazi officers looking at each other going, are we the bad guys? Yeah, you're the fucking bad guys, mate. It's ridiculous. And it's the way I look at it, and I remember saying to you boys a few weeks ago, I was like, I've heard whispers that these charges are coming and it could be big. And everyone was like, I don't know. You get fatigued with it, don't you? You hear so much of this, you think it's never actually going to happen. Mate, I'm asking myself, why are they going up against the Premier League? Why are they attacking the Premier League? Attack is often the best form of defence.
Yeah, I mean, it proves their guilt, doesn't it?
It proves their guilt.
The fact that they're actually going at something that they were charged in the 115 charge.
Yeah.
The fact that they've inflated their sponsorship fees by taking money from their owners.
It's like me telling you've broken the rules and you go, well, you know what's bollocks? The rules.
Yeah, exactly.
What they're saying is, on a business level, which is what the Premier League is, they're saying we should have the right, as with many, many different businesses, to sponsor another business. And if we want to inflate our sponsorships, that's our legal right. And what you're doing is anti-competitive.
I think what they're questioning is the value. What they're saying, though, is that who's defining those values? Like, what independent body can say this sponsorship is worth this amount of money? It's very difficult to sort of say. And the difficulty that we have around the legislation is that it was rushed through. So basically, the Saudi takeover happened very quickly because of Newcastle, and the Premier League shut themselves, and all of the clubs said, we can't have Newcastle breaking all the rules with FFP, so what we've got to do is rush through these rules, and that's where City taking offence.
Think about the fact that the King Power Stadium was sponsored by King Power, both owned by the same company. Yeah. So many sponsorships, going all the way back to Manchester United's AIG sponsorship, both owned by the same people. This has been done for time. Yeah. Nobody cared when Mike Ashley was paying a £5 for Sports Direct all over St. James Park. No one got involved. Yeah. Now they're involved because they're a risk.
No, but didn't they started, there was no legislation when Chelsea, it was first from Roman Abramovich millions that came into the game, and it was like they started shaking up the...
We were sponsored by Samsung.
No, I'm saying there was no rule.
We weren't sponsored by clubs.
I understand. I'm saying there was no rule legislation. People could do what they wanted.
They could put money into their club however they want.
However they wanted, and now they're trying to tighten it, and they're trying to make up for things that have happened in the past. Now, my question to you was, as a Newcastle fan, do you want Man City to win this case of discrimination? Because it would allow,
Newcastle on their side.
That's a great question.
Newcastle on their side.
No, because interestingly, I noticed the Aston Villa chairman came out and he said, as a football owner, as a chairman, I want to look at my club and go, what do we need in the way of players, and supply that to make my team better. Whereas the role has changed so much where now you're worrying more about balancing the books than actually what your club needs. And it's completely redefined what Sir John Hall did for Newcastle back when we signed Alan Shearer. It's a completely different role.
How many clubs would need to agree with Manchester City? Is it 14 in the league?
To get a majority, yeah.
I think there's a chance you get that. I do think there's a chance you get that, because you
can't get that.
Listen. You were saying originally about when Newcastle had the takeover, the way the Premier League had dealt with it, it's almost shattered the dream of smaller clubs. I'm not calling Newcastle a smaller club, but say, for example, there's a club down the bottom of the league, has a takeover like Man City did all those years ago. Now the rules that are in place are there to stop you being able to do that. And like you say, it's the hope that then takes away of knowing that there's always that chance that someone could come in, buy your club, and it could transform your history, transform the club, right? So I think that there will be clubs at the lower end of the league that will go, actually, it might benefit us, because either way, right, if they vote against it, I don't think it's going to massively benefit them that way.
The vote itself is on the specific ruling of inflating funds via commercial sponsorship, as opposed to the general PSR rules that have been implemented and actually passed.
But is that not one of the main ways to be able to
connect on there? And kind of the way Joey says it is kind of the way I see it. As a Newcastle fan, before the takeover, I was like, all right, we've got two choices. We either never win anything or we have a chance of winning something, which is getting bought out. Most clubs like Bournemouth and the like, that's your only hope.
Yeah.
So if you're voting against it, you're condemning your whole fan base to an endless life of never winning a Premier League title. At least if you vote for, you have a chance. The problem is that the Premier League didn't get a hold of Man City at the start of this. So now we're in a situation where the horse has bolted, and you trying to put on sanctions against them now, while you can maybe relegate them for a season, they come back up, they win everything anyway, because the infrastructure is so unbreakable now. It does feel like it's the only way to do this is spending money.
That's because Everton are in favour of this as well. Everton are on City's side
because Saudi have just got an interest in them.
But this is at first I was looking at this, I was like, why are Everton like on the case?
Because they're about to go bankrupt, potentially.
Right,
so they're needing investment.
I was like, it's almost like a guy who's got a 9 to 5 retweeting a load of Andrew Tate stuff about billionaire mindset. Do you know what I mean? It's like, why do you think you're one of those guys? And then I realised it's because they're up for sale. And then this is the other thing. If you're trying to sell your club now, you want these Saudi powers to be able to buy your club. If
those rules are in place, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Just to be clear, if we clamp down as a league and stop investment to the level that the Saudi takeover could have been for Newcastle, which is what the reason Saudi bought Newcastle clearly was so that they could have fun and build it into a huge club and make it a massive team. The fact that they can't now do that the way they thought is going to massively discourage all other investors, because they're looking at Newcastle and Aston Villa, who've both achieved Champions League football in the last 2 years, and yet both are now being told you have to sell players in order to progress here. Like, back in the day when you'd make Champions League, it meant everything. It meant you could then build the club into something else. You can't do that.
The example that you're using, though, Aston Villa have broken the status quo in that they are a very well-run club that have broken the norms of the wage bill. The wage disparity between Aston Villa and Newcastle is significant, even now.
Yeah.
So the point that the elite cannot be... as in they've broken the sort of status quo. They have challenged it and they've got up to the top 4. They've
spent money to do that, though. Aston Villa... Sorry. I'm going to have my point here, because Aston Villa are £40 million over Newcastle in wages. They have had to spend all that money to then break into the top 4. And by the way, does anyone here feel completely confident that they stay in the top 4 next season? I don't. No. I'm not saying that they can't, but it's very debatable. They haven't solidified themselves there, and they're already being told you have to sell players. Mate. So what we're seeing here is, yes, you can do that, and Newcastle and Aston Villa have both broke in, but it's temporary. It's not sustainable. You're allowed to spend more money, because the only way you can keep going is keeping spending.
They've just sold Douglas Luiz, Villa. You're probably going to have to sell Bruno Guimaraes.
Could happen,
and that's too. Mate, I'm not saying that I'm on the side of City who are challenging these rules, but I do agree that the rules at the moment don't work.
Yeah.
Because if you have to sell Guimaraes and they sell Douglas Luiz, that's two teams getting work.
Yeah. I sort of am on the side of City in terms of I would like it if clubs were able to do it, because I just think it makes it easier for everyone going forward. And I get you can look at the clubs at the bottom of the league, but ultimately I don't care. I support a club that's not at the bottom of the league, and I support a club that could benefit from this. So then I'm going to be on their side. But the main thing we're coming away from here is, let's be honest, it's more of a distraction tactic, is it not? Where are the Premier League going to have to now put all of their resources over the next couple of weeks into this hearing that City have brought upon them, right? The season before last, the Premier League's annual sort of court fees, whatever you cost it,
£30 million.
Call it, right? They've quadrupled in the space of a year. You know, this is because of the case City has put upon them in retraction or in sort of reflection to the case that they had put upon them.
Let's not get this twisted. If City, regardless of what happens, if City win the case or if City lose the case and they do get relegated, the Premier League loses either way. Because if they win the case, then that means that they haven't been able to sort of charge them and actually bring them to account. And then all of the other teams go, this team has cheated, we can just cheat as well. If we can just get off it and bury you in legal fees, and we'll just get off it anyway. If they lose and they get relegated, it's a fact that the Premier League haven't been able to get them until this point. All of these charges, by the way, are from like 2011 to 2017. But these are years and years gone.
People get stuck in this, though. Just because we should have done it years ago doesn't mean we shouldn't do it now. And I agree with your point, by the way, that teams like Newcastle and Villa should be able to improve, should be able to spend a bit of money to get into the Champions League, and shouldn't have to sell their players.
It's very strict now.
But we were also still sat here 4 weeks ago, all of us going, this is fucking shit.
There's a
Watching
happy
City
medium.
win it again.
There's a happy medium, and we're so far. So what they did, as Josh pointed out, we've gone from the Wild West where Man City could do whatever they want. Oh shit, Newcastle are coming. Slap that on, so they can only go so far and no further. Can they go?
But
can Villa break into the top 4? Can Newcastle break into the top 4? Yes. Will they go any further? Probably not.
But that's talking about the PRS rules, which might change.
But they all need work.
But also, it's like the charges against City, they have to happen. But like they actually have to, because let's be honest, this league will die. And it is dying. Like we were sat here. How enthralled were you by City's last 5 games? How much did you give a shit? Right? The final game of the season, by the way, right? City won a league, record breaking, 4 in a row. Liverpool said goodbye to Klopp. 70% more people watched Liverpool's final game than Man City's. The product is fucked.
On the charges against Man City, for me, they've already won the titles. I don't care about that, because stripping people of titles when we've all watched them lift the trophies, what are you going to do? Have the old players wheeled out and do bus parades for Man United, Liverpool? I'm not that bothered about that.
No.
What I'm more bothered about is moving forward, fixing the system, and actually sorting out what players are allowed to be bought for, whether it's a reflection of, like, in terms of how much money you're allowed to spend, is it a reflection of the TV money from the bottom clubs or whatever however they want to do it, but just get a system in place that fucking works.
But let's not conflate it, though. Let's not conflate it. The charges that Man City have got, they've overpaid players, and are hidden charges where wages were paid to other companies. So with Roberto Mancini, they paid another company that was associated with Mancini an additional fee to do that, allegedly. Right? But we all know, unfortunately, with the excellent work that some journalists have done and leaks, and bear in mind that wouldn't be present in the case, because obviously you can't do that because it's leaked information, it's been hacked effectively. But we've all seen the evidence. It's not like we're going, oh, we don't know if Man City are guilty or not. We've literally seen the evidence. The evidence is publicly available, right? So allegedly they've done that.
It's an awkward thing to feel, right? Because on the one hand, I'm aware that that's shady, and I know. But their fight is Newcastle's fight.
Yep.
I don't think
it's not the same fight.
It's not.
I disagree.
You're not cheating. You're not
Brian, we want the same thing.
What I'm saying is I don't agree with them defending themselves on such charges. But I know if they can put a dent in the Premier League, it will give Newcastle the ability to potentially get a bit of fucking fair play around.
I disagree with that. We want the same thing. We want a competitive league. We don't want City to win the next 6 in a row. We want clubs to be able to actually grow. Sell Jack Grealish, spend a bit of money.
Actually, we don't mind if City do win 6 in a row if it's fair.
If it's fair.
If it's done fairly.
But as you say, we all know it's not fair. Now, this whole thing of like City taking on the Premier League, I think people sometimes forget what the Premier League is. There isn't a great big fucking head office with 200 million it's literally the group of clubs. The 20 clubs are the Premier League. We can charge City for hiding money, for fucking around, for very clearly cheating, and then we can fix the PRS rules so that people can invest fairly.
But part of their argument is that these rules are not fair, and I'm just saying, if they win that case, it will open the door for Newcastle to spend what we want.
What you're doing is exactly what they want. That's why they've done this. They've done this because they know that most of the Premier League don't like the rules. Nottingham Forest don't like the rules. Everton don't like the rules. You don't like the rules. You don't like the rules, right? So they've very cleverly gone, hey guys, who doesn't like the rules? And everyone goes, yeah, us.
But the rules are
you're on our side. No, you're not on our side. You're the fuckers. We are the rule makers. All of our clubs can just change the rules. We can do it whenever the fuck we want. They nearly did it at the end of the season. Wolves put their hand up and went, hey, do you want to get rid of VAR? Everyone nearly did. This is the whole point. Like, we can fix PRS. We can get better rules in place. We can also say, City, fuck you. You're not on our side.
But I think
they've done this thing.
And now, a word from our sponsors. It's Father's Day. Give your dad something to shave his balls with. There's 2 things dads generally have that are bad: jokes and presents. It's time we change that. The jokes bit we can't help them with, they're fucking terrible. But the presents, smooth balls, that's the gift of a lifetime. And as his son, shouldn't you be the one to give him that? Show him that, Dad, the 70s and 80s, they're long gone. We've got a new way of doing things around here now. And also, it's beneficial for your mother, right? I mean, everyone sort of wins. She's down there. Think about her doing that with smoother balls. She'll love life. And dads also, they're using old beard trimmers. And half of them, they've got nose hairs hanging out their nose that Spider-Man can swing from, for Christ's sake. We just need to sort this lot out. And that's why Manscaped is the perfect solution for all dads out there. And also grooming stuff, it's usually very feminized. It doesn't feel very manly. Look at that. It's beautiful. It's called Manscaped, for Christ's sake. He's not going to freak out when he gets this. He's going to love you for it. Even if he never loved you growing up. Maybe now you'll get some. Think about that. Bar your dad's love. That's my advice. And if your dad loves rocking a beard, the Beard Hedger Pro Kit is also the ultimate beard maintenance kit. It's Manscaped's most advanced trimmer, along with shampoo, conditioner, oil, and balm for his beard. Once he's done with all that, he'll be feeling like a new man. And with summer just around the corner, the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the perfect gift for your dad. And the Lawnmower 5.0 is included in that. So you've got everything covered. And if you want to be the best son in the world, all you've got to do is go to manscaped.com/thekickoff and use our code THEKICKOFF at checkout for 20% off and free shipping. You absolute bloody legend. But for now, enjoy the video.
They've done this thing that like politicians do where they try to make you believe they're a man of the people.
Exactly.
These lot are super elite.
Exactly.
These lot, they're like, come on, guys, it's not fair how you've been treated.
It's literally, mate.
Come with me.
It's
no.
Rishi Sunak going, you wouldn't trust the government with your money, would you? You trust yourself. You are the fucking government.
Yeah.
Like,
If you own Newcastle, if you owned Newcastle and you hear this lot are taking on the Premier League and saying we should be able to pay for our sponsorships, whatever the fuck we want, and it's none of your business because it's our company and we should be allowed to do that. And legally, on a footballing sense, it's unfair. But on a legal sense, they might have a fucking case there.
They have the case, but then again, it always goes back to the original case of we were doing this anyway, and you lot now said we don't like it, and it's out of order.
And many clubs have done that, right? So that's another problem. Many clubs
pumped up things and said that we got money that we're not making.
No, I mean the inflation sponsorships, specifically that. Obviously, the other stuff of whatever it counts is a whole nother ball game. But going back to Jacob's point, he's saying you want a fair league. Well, Newcastle owners know it's not fair what we can do. So if City win, we're more likely to be able to spend whatever the fuck we want and guarantee Newcastle go right to the top just let me finish. Then if City don't win, if it becomes a fair league, it's a lot harder for us. Whereas if it's a Wild West again, well then we're fucking kings.
But that's why you're in a shaky ground, and we can't really. It's hard to listen to you now because almost like you're almost been bought up.
I'm not saying that's my opinion.
You've got your own interests now. No. All you're thinking about is how many trophies can Newcastle win if Saudi are allowed to do anything they want.
We're conflating three different things.
Yeah, exactly.
We're conflating three different things. There's a case against Man United, Man City, sorry, I should say. I was looking at you there. 115 charges that they have to associate for. There's then the case for Man City suing the Premier League, which obviously we have to talk about as well, and they have their right to challenge the rules. But that is, again, separate from PSR. It's purely around sponsorship.
And that's exactly what I'm referring to.
Right, but those things are separate. And then there's the general PSR thing, which the Premier League are resolving and are increasing the budgets for. We've just had not for this season, but it's being pushed through.
What's mental? That budget of 105 has been the same way for however many years. We know how inflated transfer fees have become even in the last 5 years. And that it's been the same for, and Aston Villa tried to challenge it and go, give us 135 so that we can have a little bit more leeway.
So they are trialing, they're doing a soft launch of that at the moment, whereby there's an accounting period they're looking at for the current season where they're going to see how successful that is. If that's then successful, they'll bring that in and then it is being increased, the PSR amount.
To my knowledge, that was voted against by all of the clubs. So yeah,
for this season,
do you not think in terms of other clubs back in City, it more just comes down to what is quicker to do? Do we redefine what we see as fair, or it's like the old debate in boxing? If everyone's secretly doping, do we just let everyone dope?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
But then it's the thing of going, if everyone's doping from the same stash,
exactly.
Maybe. The problem is you've got a whole fucking pharmaceutical company, and so have Manchester City. So,
but then again, it comes down to what's quicker, because when we're saying about the hope of a club going, like a Bournemouth, for example, going, oh, we might have these richer. How often do clubs get taken over? Not saying it doesn't happen, but how often? So then the clubs look at it and go, okay, it might just benefit us more to go along with this and hope, or we got to shut this down straight away. That's why everyone's so divided on it, because there will be clubs with underlying interest. Say, for example, City, right? Their owners are based in Abu Dhabi. Their 4 main sponsors are in Abu Dhabi or come from Abu Dhabi. So there are going to be clubs that are ultimately looking at this and thinking, we'll just back Man City here because we could hopefully benefit from this down the line.
Do we think there's a bit of foreshadowing going on at the moment, though, in that Ederson is looking to leave? Guardiola has said there's a potential that he leaves at the end of the season. There are other players that are aggravating for moves.
Guardiola's got some cheek, by the way, because he was like, I'll basically giving it the big one. And now like we hear about this on the horizon, and then it's sort of fed to the media of this will be his last season. Oh, imagine my shock.
Mate, Omar. Yeah. He went to you.
When the open checkbooks get closed, all of a sudden
the rats are running. And again, as soon as he came to Man United, it started to tap it up.
Do you not think there's signs, though, that they're a guilt? Like the fact that they are countersuing right now and they're going after the Premier League. Well, they are countersuing them.
No, I'm just talking about the rats running away. I just thought.
Yeah, in terms of the signs of guilt, I mean, look, from everything that you've said and a lot of what we've read up on, it's not looking good for them in their case. And I think that's why they're going on the...
But I think this is the dangerous thing, though. They would love if fans of other teams, Villas or Newcastle's, whatever, were going, yeah, let's have the Wild West back. That's not what they're promising. Let's be honest, they're not doing this. They're not suing the Premier League because they want other people who've got money to be able to spend it. They're suing the Premier League to try and slow down their own legal case. Right? As Joey said.
But if they somehow won their case in that it was, on a business level, not fair, like operating, not a fair operating standard, it would enable Newcastle.
It would.
And the Premier League also is different. After that, as soon as this happens, if this is the case and they do win, you say in 5 years' time, the top 4 is a completely different top 4. You're talking about, I believe, a Spurs takeover. I believe, what's his name that was running about our club? Yeah. Was it interested? Everyone's waiting to see, well, what can we do in this league? If they say now, do what you want, it's the Wild Wild West, you'll
get more people buying, because imagine back in the day, does Roman Abramovich buy Chelsea if he is completely handcuffed to what he can spend and that it's going to take 10 to 15 years to even win an FA Cup? Like, no. No fucking way does he buy them.
Not at all.
Roman Abramovich wasn't even going to buy Chelsea if we qualify for the Champions League. That goes to show how much hinders on the opportunity of what you can do in the short-term future when you come to...
Mate, these guys aren't trying to do 10 to 15-year projects. They want immediate success. That's what they're buying it for.
But I think the problem is we get stuck in this debate where we're going, it's either you have Mike Ashley vomiting into fireplaces at board meetings and not giving you any money, or you can have Saudis. There's a
that was literally what happened.
That was literally what happened. Yeah. So fair enough.
Imagine.
Fair enough. But for the rest of the table and for most of the Premier League, American owners, Arsenal, we've spent as much as anyone in the last few years, but we play by the rules. Liverpool, same. And we are the top 2 teams that have challenged Man City for the last few years. And that's not been because of rules. That's because they hired good people in good jobs and did things well. So why can't we all just look at that model and go, well, why doesn't everyone just do a bit of that?
The reason being is for if you're not in that window of your Liverpool and Arsenal, which is a very lucky fan base to have, right? Because you're a well-run club, you've got a great manager and a great setup, and even that feels like a temporary situation that could collapse at any moment. What the rest of us have is a fortune. That's what we've got to look forward to. That's the only hope. And if we remove that, then the likelihood of us, of regular fans seeing a trophy lifted for their club, that's that level of stature, it feels very unlikely.
But Brian, get on it, and you're not going to believe this. There's a club in the Premier League, right, who've got owners that their fans fucking hate. They've got different coloured flags for them, everything like that. They've got a manager who got a -1 goal difference last season, and you're not going to believe this. They won a trophy.
Yeah, well, America.
Yeah, there you go. I was listening to that because I was thinking,
you don't even need investment. You don't.
Do you know what it is?
You get the worst owners in the world. They all hate them.
There are some clubs though that have just won trophies for a long time, and they just pick them up every night.
It's called heritage.
Yeah, it is. Look,
I think you got a fucking magnet in that stadium, mate, instead of a roof.
But for regular clubs, regular mere mortals, we need a miracle, right? We need a financial one. So, look, just to round this up, lads, what's your expectation of where this goes on both Man City's charges and their case against the Premier League?
I'll tell you where I think it's going to end up. I think they're going to get a huge point deduction, probably 90 points, and I think think they will, and I think that will come in sort of like midway through this season.
90 points.
No, but hear me out here. That will not go through because they will go to arbitration. They'll go through a court case, another court case that will last a significant amount of time, probably 12 months, maybe even more. It will drag out into another season, and I think then it will be reduced into an insignificant number, maybe 20 points.
Question on that,
still challenge.
Why did it not drag out that long for Everton and Nottingham Forest? You think because
that's a singular charge on a PSR thing, rather than what has happened with Man City. It's 115 charges. You have to litigate on every single one of them. There's so much more work. And also, Man City have been obstructing.
In that case, what do you think about their case against the Premier League? Do they win?
I think it's unlikely, but again, it depends on how much you can spend. I think the Premier League is going to be so worn down.
If they win, doesn't that weaken the Premier League's position against them? Because if they win, they prove the Premier League to have been unlawful, and then.
They're two separate cases.
I'm going to bring in...
They are two separate cases, but they're involving they're involving the two same parties.
I believe it's going to similar to boxing. You see when like what happened with Conor Ben and how
it is well similar to that situation.
How they're still spanking him right now, and anyone that tried to get in bed with him, British Boxing Board of Control realised we look really shit right now, even though they have been shit. But they said you are not going to defeat us in this moment. I believe the Premier League have to show teeth, or guess what's going to happen? They lose control.
That's why Newcastle are sitting silent.
They lose control.
Remember though, this happened with UEFA. This happened with UEFA. The charges were that they went to court. UEFA gave them a 2-year ban from the Champions League. They took it to CAS, and the 2-year ban got completely absolved. They got a £45 million fine, and that was it. We all walked off. We all forgot about it. I bet you didn't even remember that they got charged. But that's the thing. Like we all just forget. So what the strategy of Man City is to draw this out for as long as they possibly can, so that we all forget about it. And it's working.
Here's what I think is going to happen, and the house always wins. Premier League will win. Odds on who's going to get relegated next season: Leicester 1-2, Ipswich 9-10, Southampton 6-4. They're the bottom three. Highest odds 2,500 to 1 for Arsenal to get relegated. Liverpool 2,000 to 1. Manchester City. Do you know what odds you get for them to get relegated?
25 to 1.
16 to 1 now.
Oh, it's gone down as well. Oh. It's gone down.
The house always wins.
So they're not thinking they will get relegated, but they think there's a high chance.
They are not letting any of you fuckers make $1 million if you put loads of money on City to get relegated, because they know something's coming.